Yeah, great.
Matthew, you spent many days in Indy, as did I, and Jay, you spent 2 to be precise.
Yeah,
with that comes a lot of rumors, a lot of cold ones late at night.
Yeah,
with rumors.
So here's the thing: I've done this column for years and years and years and years, and I always it's a rumors column. It's literally like, and so like I will late at night at bars or at restaurants or in hallways or whatever, I'll talk to sources and, hey, what have you heard? That kind of stuff. And I've been going enough years that I've developed a nice network, and people, hey, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. And so I always write an article, and you can read the article now. It's up on rotoworld.com, 25 most interesting things I heard at the Combine. But in the column, what I do is I say, like, listen, I am not a journalist. I am not reporting any of this. I haven't confirmed any of these rumors. I haven't double checked it. I'm telling you these are rumors, and a lot of times I get it right. I was the first guy that had Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers. Like, that was in my column 3 years ago at a time when everyone thought, oh, Brady's going back to the Patriots, or if he leaves, it might be the Raiders. Like, I was just like, actually, I'm hearing Tampa Bay of all places. On the other hand, by the way, so I've nailed these things, right? Last year I had, hey, Russell Wilson's on a one-year deal. Like, don't be surprised if it gets released in a year. And sure enough, that happens, right? On the other hand, I also, in last year's column, had Matthew Stafford retiring. So I get, like, it's rumors. It's like, it's all rumors.
But you're not a journalist.
I'm not a journalist.
So you can't lose. You can only win.
Also, you keep trying to force guys into retirement. Last year was Stafford. This year is Travis Kelce. Wonder who's going to be next. We'll push,
Croucher.
Kirk Cousins, Croucher, Kirk Cousins, maybe. Who knows? Could be anyone.
And so anyway, I'm just like, but I caveat the hell out of it, right? Like, again, I'm not reporting this as news. These are all just rumors. No idea if some of them will turn out right. Some of them will be massively bad misses. This is the gossip I heard, literally gossip. So, but what happens is that aggregators take all this stuff. Literally, I got a headline. I took a picture of it the other day. This is like, it was unbelievable.
Don't give the account credit
what?
On the show.
No, I'm not going to. I won't.
They're all bad.
They're all terrible. But here was what it was. The headline was brutal cut. NFL Pro Bowler who has made $48 million in career earnings wakes up unemployed after cut as fans say, quote, there's no RBs left. And then it says the Cincinnati Bengals are expected to. So first off, Joe Mixon still has a job. Here's what I wrote. What I actually wrote was, after I wrote, hey, I'm not a journalist, blah, blah, blah. I wrote, I heard that the Bengals will also release Joe Mixon. And then I put in parentheses, evergreen sentence, shrug emoji. Because that's been the rumor for 3 straight years.
Right.
Yep.
So that's what I wrote, clearly indicating that I have no idea. Shrug emoji is this, right? Thank you. Oh. So, okay, there you go, the shrug emoji. So anyway, this site says, first off, they've got him cut. Brutal cut. NFL Pro Bowler who's made $48 million in career earnings wakes up unemployed.
It's so visceral.
No.
Very
the imagery.
dramatic.
And then, that's the headline. And then the article reads, the Cincinnati Bengals are expected to release Pro Bowl running back Joe Mixon. NFL insider Matthew Berry, not an insider.
Definitely
not an insider. Didn't report on some of the most interesting things he heard at the NFL Combine, one of which was being the status of Joe Mixon. Again, heard that gossip. I've heard it for 3 straight years. I literally made a reference to the fact that it's been wrong for 3 straight years. Like, every year they're going to release Joe Mixon. Every year Joe Mixon plays for the Bengals. Evergreen sentence, shrug emoji. Anyway, aggregators are out of control.
They are.
Is my point.
There's no denying that.
And as of now, as of this taping, Joe Mixon still has a job. Nameless online publication.
No.
He did not wake up unemployed.
What a weird community. We just wonder these people having like kids. But what are you going to do today, Dad? Well, I'm going to aggregate.
As quick as I can.
Just
Notifications on for everything.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to take headlines and take them out of context and just try to push it out to generate clicks.
Doing God's work.
So a more positive running back one here, Matthew. Brian Robinson potentially in for a pretty big fantasy season.
He's going to have a monster year. He's in. I'll say this right now. He's in consideration for ride or die.
Really?
Wow.
That would be really going out on a limb.
Yeah.
That's a much deeper cut than you would typically go.
Yeah. He's in the consideration. Here's the thing. So I interviewed Dan Quinn. We played on the last show, but he just kept talking about how much he likes the physical running style of Brian Robinson. He likes the idea of, like, hey, 4 minutes left in the game. I know I can give it to this guy, and they're not getting the ball back. And so when you think about how good Brian Robinson is at the goal line, and you think about what Cliff Kingsbury did as a head coach in Arizona. He's now the coordinator, obviously, and will be calling the offense for Washington. Arizona, in 2 of Kingsbury's 4 seasons, Arizona was top 6 in running back goal line carries. Kenyon Drake, who has no business being a goal line back, Connor Rogers.
They figured it out, though.
Kenyon Drake literally was tied for the most goal line carries, the most goal-to-go carries in the NFL in 2020. James Conner, of course, second in goal-to-go carries in 2021. Kingsbury likes to run when they get in close, and now you've got a guy in Brian Robinson who is just a hammer at the goal line, really tough runner, 2 years now removed from the crazy gun wounds. And so Dan Quinn, who just loves the makeup of this character, and I do as well, obviously. You guys know I love B-Rob. So Brian Robinson going to have a big fantasy year. People are going to be shocked about that, especially because, by the way, there's no guarantee Antonio Gibson is back. It might be just Brian Robinson like Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah. I think the thing with Brian Robinson, too, is that people think of him as just your prototypical first, second down back, like a Gus Edwards archetype. Like, I know he doesn't have the history as a receiver, at least what he's shown in the NFL, but, like, he has shown flashes where he could be used more as a receiver. So I think there's some untapped upside there.
And I do think that I think the Commanders under Adam Peters will certainly address the offensive line, which is a massive area of need for the team. So I think the offensive line will be improved next year. And by the way, like, whether it's Jaden Daniels or Drake May, in theory, we should have better quarterback play.
Yep.
So the offense will be more efficient.
So 2 guys that there could be eyes on their workload next year. Travis Kelce, of course, being the first one, and then Travis Etienne, I think, is the more notable one because Andy Reid's been pretty public. He was very public with you about Kelce. I think Etienne would be a pretty big surprise, but they don't really have that number 2 running back right now.
No, they don't. Just real quickly, Andy Reid, when I interviewed him on camera, you can see that on the NFL and NBC YouTube channel, but like Kelsey's 77% percentage of snaps last year was his lowest rate since 2014. And we asked Andy, was that by design? And he said, yes, we want to keep him healthy. He's getting older. We need him for the playoffs. So obviously they're a team that's going for the three-peat. So I would expect that to be as well. Travis Kelce ended up averaging under 15 fantasy points per game, just 14.6. It was his fewest total since 2016. So, again, Travis Kelce not my number 1 tight end in fantasy next year as a result of this. Like, he's still going to be an elite option. What? Laporta.
That's
Laporta's my guy.
The trendy thing in best ball drafts right now.
Maybe go back to the well on a Lions ride or die. I was looking at their schedule again. Very heavy dome schedule for the Lions again. So I suspect that they're going to be fantasy.
Laporta's in the mix too. And then to your point about Travis Etienne, so I asked Coach Doug Peterson on camera again, like, hey, Etienne had 325 touches last year. That was 3rd most of any running back. You have traditionally been, when he was in Philadelphia and when he first got to Jacksonville, a running back by committee guy. So was it just because Etienne is so awesome that you wanted him out there all the time, or you just didn't feel like you had anyone? And it felt like he said we want to lower his workload. He said it in a very nice way, but he's like, Tank Bigsby was a rookie and still finding his way, and like Tank Bigsby was bad last year.
He had some atrocious mistakes as well. That one fumble
that was his problem in college too, by the way. So that's not a good sign.
Yeah, I think of Doug Peterson. I think of Ryan Matthews and Jay, my namesake, times 2 by the way.
Jay,
2
wow.
Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
Remember, like he was mixing them all in, and so I just think Etienne's still going to be an RB1 in fantasy, but yes, I would expect a lower workload, and I would expect either Tank Bigsby needs to make a lot of improvements, or the Jaguars are going to address some depth, whether it's in free agency or the draft.
A guy that we all wanted to see even more of last year and can't wait to see this year. How about Taj Spears, the mid-round pick out of Tulane, that when he got the ball for the Titans, he looked really good.
That was a question of Rand Carthon, their general manager, at his press conference about if Derrick Henry does move on, is Taj Spears kind of a number 1 guy? And you can go and read the quote.
Yeah, Rand had a really interesting quote on this. He said, I know there were a lot of concerns about his knee coming out, and that was the big question this time of year and after we drafted, but we're talking about a guy that never missed a practice, never missed a game, and he's, for lack of a better way to put it, he's made of the right shit, and there are the type of guys that we want to have in our program.
I just wanted someone else to cuss on the show other than me.
It's in the quote.
It's in the quote. That's what
Rand said.
That's what Rand said. I
Rand's
agree with that,
quote.
by the way. I mean, like Tajay is like he was more explosive last year. You know what I mean? Like when you watch the games, Henry's still Henry, King Henry, but like Spears felt like more explosive and more versatile, like really good in the passing game.
Yes.
But could clearly go between the tackles. And so, it'll be interesting what they do. And Callahan, I think, talked about wanting to use multiple running backs. But I do think Taj Spears is going to be a viable top 20 guy, assuming Derrick Henry goes to another team, which is the assumption right now.
All right, so the last bit of running back buzz here, Matthew, on the Browns, when you got to talk to Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, so I talked to Coach Stefanski. I asked him specifically about his running back room. Let's take a listen.
Nick is a guy that I get to see every day. He's working out, sometimes working out twice a day. So we'll make sure that we are smart with his recovery. That's something that, you got to be really smart with how you push it, what he does, but because you're going to have to slow Nick down just based on how he works. But, we feel strong about Nick.
Obviously, we'll see what happens with Nick, but the expectation is probably, if nothing else, Jerome's your third down guy next year and maybe an expanded role depending on Nick's availability.
Of course, and that's all of that is so much. We have to see how it all plays out, but I'm excited about Jerome based on this season because, again, it was really his first exposure, and I thought he did some nice things, and he's a young player that can get better.
Well, Coach of the Year winner, Kevin Stefanski, thank you so much for joining me.
I appreciate you.
There you go. Kevin Stefanski, he appreciates me. Nothing, it was great. Appreciate that. All right, so a couple things here. First up, by the way, just going back to the Combine column, if you go back and read my Combine column from last year, at the time, a year ago at this time, Dearness Johnson was expected to be the backup to Nick Chubb. And in that column was just like, they actually really like Jerome Ford. It's going to be Jerome Ford, believe it or not Dearness Johnson, which obviously ended up becoming true. Clearly the answer that we were talking about was I asked him about Nick Chubb's recovery, asked him about Jerome Ford, and so it looks like, we expect whenever Nick Chubb is back, he will be Nick Chubb in that offense and Jerome Ford will be the guy. All right, so here's the part you didn't see. I had, with Coach Stefanski, I have to set this up properly. All right, so the way it works at the Combine is that you ask, hey, will you come on our show? And so we're not just, it's not just NBC there, right? But it's also, it's SiriusXM, it's, CBS, it's
right.
NFL Network, it's ESPN, it's like all the, different media outlets, not to mention, specifically to the Browns, the Cleveland Cleveland Plain Dealer, and their flagship radio station.
Yes.
And so these coaches and general managers come in, and there's a million different requests. And in the case of NBC, we also have Pro Football Talk there. So again, a lot of times teams won't want us, have a guy talk on two shows on NBC. Anyway,
double dipping.
Double dip. Right, exactly. So which is one of the reasons why we didn't get some guys because they were on Pro Football Talk. Okay, fine. So, but I know the PR director of the Browns, and Stefanski was walking around doing all those different things, and I'm like, hey, do you think we could grab Coach? And he goes, I don't know, we've got a lot of demands, but I'll try to help you out, and so I'm like, okay. And so I come back to the pod where we're all sort of waiting, and he says he's going to try, but it's probably not. So I tell producer Pete, backup producer Pete, who's like, it's probably not going to happen, right? And so all of a sudden, like out of the blue, so it's like 20 minutes later, we're just sort of sitting around, and then all of a sudden I get a text, bringing Coach by in 2 minutes. Oh, okay. So now we're like suddenly scrambling, and I'm trying to think, okay, I want to ask him about, Chubb and Watson's, recovery, and I want to ask about Cedric Tillman. I asked about Cedric Tillman.
Thank you for that.
And we talked about Njoku, and, so it was a really good interview. I'm just trying to think. But I don't know if you remember NFL Awards night, where Jay was.
Slips my mind.
Yeah, Jay was, we had so much talk about how Joe Flacco won and DeMar Hamlin didn't, and just the wrong guys won and all these different things. And so I am so this is one of the most embarrassing moments I have as a broadcaster. I have a complete brain fart. Again, I'm so scrambled trying to think of stuff for Stefanski.
Well, you're not a journalist, so
I'm also not a journalist.
Doesn't really count.
Anyway, and so so I learned a lot of different things at the Combine, including this. This is so humiliating. Watch this. This is what is on the
Coach of the Year candidate, probably should have won, but division champs, good luck next year.
Yeah, should I tell him?
I thought Ryan's won. Did I up?
Is there an editing button?
No, it's taped. But I thought Ryan's won. And I was pissed because you should have won.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I know.
Is there an editing button?
By the way, so a couple of things. First off, how sweet is Stefanski?
Yeah,
Too nice.
Right.
Right.
So Stefanski, unbelievably kind, who, just
How
like.
did you intro him? Because that was the outro.
The same way. This is what's amazing. This is why Stefanski's the best, because he just let it go. He just let it go. I think I just said something like, hey, one of the, I think I said something to the effect of like, going into the postseason, it was you and D'Amico Ryans for Coach of the Year. Great job. Like, it was sort of more generic. Like, the way I should have introduced him if I was his NFL Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski.
Right, that's why I asked.
It was more generic in how so it wasn't totally, he probably wasn't like, but Stefanski goes through the whole interview. He's great. He's super candid. He gives me great answers. He talks about Elijah Moore as well, his expanded role and what he expects for next year. He's great. And then I end it like that. And he's like, again, he's so sweet, and I'm such a moron.
Should I
just
tell
had a brain fart that I just, whatever reason.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Look at Barry.
That is, that's in the Hall of Fame of photos of the
That's
show.
Right. I just effed that up, and so we edited it for the actual thing, but I had to
That's good.
I just had a total brain fart on air, and for whatever reason in my mind I thought D'Amico Ryans won Coach of the Year because I knew it was between the two of them, and it was all, I know the odds, anyway, I don't.
They got the same amount of votes.
Yes.
They had the exact same votes, and then Stefanski won on a first place tiebreaker.
On a tiebreaker, and for whatever reason,
Well,
we had so much conversation about
yes.
DeMar Hamlin not winning and Joe Flacco and like.
To be fair, I've actually crafted an alternate reality, which I now live by, where DeMar Hamlin actually did win Comeback
Right,
Player of the
which
Year.
is
So
what
if you want to
you
live
did.
in different realities with the NFL awards, it's fine.
I was so horrified, and so I'm so embarrassed, and so like to not know. And again, he was great, and I think it's better that. It's better than the reverse. Like, if I'd said he'd won and he actually hadn't won, that's uglier. But
like the cast of La La Land.
Yes, exactly. But because he won and I said he did, anyway, so.
He played it perfectly.
Again, congratulations to Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski. Thank you so much, by the way, for being so gracious with me being such a moron. Such a terrible. Right, I'm not a journalist. I'm also
And he fit you in unplanned.
Yes.
He didn't plan to stop by and do that interview.
No, correct. And he did and literally I went over, he was doing an interview with local Cleveland radio, and I asked the PR director, and I said, would you mind? He goes, we're really tight, but he goes, when he gets off the air, I'll ask Coach. So the only reason that interview happened is that, thank you to Browns PR because they could have just said no.
Right.
They said, we'll present it to him. That's happened to me before too, where PR has just been like, nah, he's not doing that. But he's like, I'll ask Coach, and obviously Stefanski said, yeah, I know Matthew, and and I've interviewed him before, and he's the sweetest guy. He's a great coach. He's Coach of the Year, and I was so embarrassed and horrified.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not a journalist. I'm also not a broadcaster. Let's be clear about that.
So
it's I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, let's close this
Have
out.
either of you done something that dumb on air? I'm such a moron. I'm such a maroon.
No.
We'll see. Our day's coming.
I hit
It
reply
happens.
all to an email once. No, that doesn't count.
You did bet on DeMar Hamlin.
I did bet on DeMar Hamlin. Also bet on D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah, a significant amount of money, by the way. A mind-boggling,
D'Amico was actually a worse result. D'Amico was a worse result than Flacco, but I still won on Stefanski, so it didn't feel as dire. Also, the other thing too is that I'm fine, ethically with Stefanski winning over Ryans. If Stefanski had an awesome case, I probably would have voted for Stefanski over Ryans too. I would not have voted for Joe Flacco over DeMar Hamlin, which makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough. But Stefanski had ultimately 5 different quarterbacks and massive injuries.
Half of his team was on IR. He did.
He lost his starting quarterback and his starting running back. That's the thing everyone forgets is that Nick Chubb went down very early in the season, and that offense was predicated on Nick Chubb being a massive part of it.
Their fourth string offensive tackle.
They were out scheming and out coaching other teams all year.
All year.
So.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.